Hello, my PBC family and friends. Pastor Brian here with a quick bite, living the Word. So this morning, as I was waking up, and it's more in particular as I was having a conversation with Jaden about just kind of life right now, what it's like and stuff like this, the Lord brought a thought back to my mind, and something I think can be encouragement to all of us right now in this season in which we live. There's a lot of people who are just kind of like, the right word is, upset. Hold on, sorry. Upset, a little bit like overwhelmed by what they're seeing have happen around the world, and just the changes that are happening and things of this nature. And a lot of people who are getting very politicized in all this too as well. And you guys know me, I'm very apolitical, for lack of better terms. I mean, I don't want to be defined by a letter behind my name unless that letter is C for Christ. I mean, honestly, it's just, that's just how I am. It doesn't mean I don't have my own opinions and things like this, but it just means that basically, I think as Christians, far too often we get too wrapped up in the geopolitical situations of the world instead of being more focused on the one who actually controls the world. Now, I say all that to say this. That's what kind of brought this thought to my mind, to this passage that I'm in this morning. This morning, my passage comes from Daniel, chapter 3, a story you're very familiar with. Just to kind of set some background up for us here, though, you remember King Nebuchadnezzar. Now, I want to say this at the forefront. If we think we live in bad times, guys, if we think we live in very troubled times and very evil times, or whatever the case may be, think about the Babylonian Empire for a minute. I mean, it was... there's a reason why even in the end times, he kind of compares everything that's going to happen in the end times to Babylon, right? Babylon was just pure... not God. Let's just put it that way, okay? Well, anyway, so here we have King Nebuchadnezzar, okay? And King Nebuchadnezzar now, he had taken captive some of the Israelites and stuff, and amongst that group was 4 young men in particular, Daniel, Azariah, Mishael, and I draw a blank on the other one's Hebrew's name. I apologize. Anyway, maybe Hezekiah? No, that's not right. Anyway, but long story short, the Lord, he had taken these ones captive, and so, long story short, you remember Daniel got set up in the kingdom because of answering a dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, and in doing so, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the Babylonian names or the Aramaic names for these 3 young men, also had kind of come to a place of prominence. Well, Nebuchadnezzar, then what does he do? He gets convinced by all of his political influences, all of his counselors, if I can put it this way, to set up a golden image of himself, that everybody would bow down and worship at this golden image whenever they hear the sound of music, in essence, or the sound of an instrument. And so he's like, puffed up with pride, and oh, this is a great idea, let's do this, and so he does it. Well, not really counting the cost. Well, now, we don't know where Daniel was during this time. Maybe he was out on the king's business in another area or something like this. But we know that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are. And basically, I want to kind of pick up with what their account was of this story and what their response was during this story. Now, I want you to see that there were those, literally as it says here, right? It says... they after they set this up, those that sought to basically destroy these certain Jews, right? Those who had a hard time with Jews being in power in this kingdom, all right, sought an occasion on how they might stumble them, okay? And so, this is what they came up with. They built this golden statue, the golden image of Nebuchadnezzar, and they were all supposed to bow down and worship at it, okay? Well, so it says in verse 8, "Wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. And they said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of a cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, or dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image." So basically they remind him, hey, this is the rules that you made, right? And then they go on and basically say, "There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the..." Thank you so much, son. What a blessing. All right, pardon me, guys. "There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, no, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So they basically come before the king like, hey, here's these three guys, and they're not doing what they're told to do. I mean, you're the government, and you're gonna do it, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and so on and so forth. And with these with this idea of worshiping something other than the true and living God, not just following rules and things like this, but literally worshiping somebody else. Okay, and so what basically happens at this point is that then Nebuchadnezzar basically calls these three forward, and you guys know the story. Okay, and he says, "Here's the deal, guys. I'm gonna have them play, and if you fall down and worship my image, then you're fine. But if you don't, here I have a fiery furnace, and I'm going to throw you into that furnace." Okay, so let me just read to you what he says. He says in verse 14, Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast at same hour into the midst of burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands?" Now, this is so important for us, brothers and sisters, because who is that God that will deliver you out of my hands? And I think so many times we look at the geopolitical situation in which we face in the world the way it is and stuff like this, and we go, who is the God that's going to deliver us out of these hands? Well, I love these two's response. These three give a great response, Their response is so incredible. Because what they literally say is, we don't really need to worry about this. All right? They're like, we don't need you to threaten us or to play the music or anything like this. Because listen to what they say there. It says in verse 16 and 17, it says, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful." That means that basically we don't really have a need to answer in this regard, right? We're not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Here, really, in all honesty, is the point, guys. This is what he's really driving at here. Okay, he wants them to come and do worship the way that he wants them to worship and stuff, and they're like, we don't need to answer you in this matter. We're going to worship the true and living God, whether he deliver us from the fiery furnace or whether we perish in it. And this is my encouragement for us today. No matter what we come up against, no matter what we face, we should be willing to have that same heart as these three young men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to be able to say, doesn't matter. No matter what comes of this time, no matter what the world turns into, we're going to worship the true and living God. We need not you to answer or tell us who to worship or how to worship. We're going to worship the true and living God. And I love their response to this. Now, of course, we know the end of the story. They get cast into the furnace. As a matter of fact, Nebuchadnezzar is so enraged at this time that he's like, make the fire 3 times hotter than he normally would. So hot that when the guys go to throw them in, those who went to throw them in burnt up. And they throw them into the fiery furnace, and God delivers them from the fiery furnace. They're in the furnace walking around. As a matter of fact, there's 4. It's a Christophany, an Old Testament appearance of Christ, walking around in the furnace. So I just want to encourage us that no matter what you see coming on the horizon, no matter what you think might be out there, no matter what you think the government or governments, for that matter, of the world may choose to do, our answer is simple. We will worship the true and living God. Well, I love you. We love you. God loves you. And God's got this.